The vast war fleet of the Galactic Alliance was shadowed by the faint lights of distant stars in the background. Hundreds of ships glided silently through the void of space before the battle. The Alliance had united against a great threat, the Xerok invaders. Yet, some species within the Alliance still considered humans to be insufficiently powerful. In their eyes, humans were a fragile race. Their technology was inadequate, and they lacked physical strength. This war cannot be won by them, thought Commander Hiver, a Zeon. The Zeons were known for their ruthlessness on the battlefield and their strong armor. The other commander standing beside him, Marsus, silently nodded in agreement. "Humans are overestimating themselves," he said in a cold tone. Inside the human ship, however, the atmosphere was completely different. A group of soldiers was preparing for battle, putting on their helmets. A human soldier named Jackran turned to his team and smiled. "Are you ready, kids? Today is a big day." One of the team members, Travis, turned to him and laughed nervously. "I can say I'm ready, but my heart thinks differently." Jackran placed his arm friendly on Travis's shoulder. "Don't just think about surviving. Think about victory. Remember, we are not just soldiers. We are humans. No one should underestimate our resilience and willpower." The inside of the ship was filled with a tense energy before the battle. While other Alliance members looked down on the humans, Jackran and his team were fully determined. None of them were considering retreat. The mission was clear: break through the Xerok lines and reclaim a strategic planet. But no one knew how tough this battle would be. When the war began, the deep darkness of space was illuminated by energy explosions and the intense fire of ships. Each Alliance ship stood on a thin line between life and death, resisting the powerful and ruthless attacks of the Xerok invaders. Even the most experienced warriors of the Galactic Alliance were affected by the brutality of the Xeroks. However, humans were still seen as weak pawns in the eyes of their allies. Jackran and his team were at the front lines where the battle was fiercest. Tasked with capturing a strategic point, they faced the towering metallic bases reminiscent of the Xerok's massive fortresses, while patrolling enemies fired their laser weapons at them. The atmosphere was thick with deadly tension, as if everything would explode with the next step. "This is insane," Travis said, looking at Jackran with a face covered in sweat. "The Xeroks are going to tear us apart." Jackran silently tightened his armor on his chest. He was scared too, but he had learned to suppress that fear. "Fear is the strongest weapon of a human," he said to Travis as he put his helmet on. "But it only works if you use it correctly." Suddenly, the Xerok line ruptured with a massive explosion. Energy blasts and enormous metal fragments scattered everywhere. The humans received the signal to move. "Charge!" Jackran shouted, allowing his voice to resonate as a commanding echo among the team. As they advanced through the explosions and the metallic echoes of weapons, Jackran and his team charged toward the enemy. The enemy line was cracking but not breaking. The Xeroks were far stronger than the humans. Their massive armor and physical endurance made them seem invincible. A Xerok soldier stepped forward with a colossal energy axe. Jackran drew his knife and attacked. He skillfully deflected the axe, but every move was heavy and deadly. They struggled to advance through the growing pile of corpses on the ground. Laser shots flickered in the air, and every bullet that struck ended a life. Jackran paused for a moment, surveying the chaos around him. Travis was engaged in a one-on-one fight with a Xerok, his weapon malfunctioning. Jackran moved to help him. At that moment, a massive explosion hurled Jackran several meters forward. His armor was torn apart, and his right arm was completely severed, leaving a gaping wound from which blood gushed. As waves of pain etched through his brain, he felt as if he might lose consciousness. But an inner voice kept him alive. Breathe, Jackran. You can't give up. He tried to rise to his feet with trembling legs. His body shook with pain, as if squeezed in the empty space where his right hand had been. Blood blurred his vision beneath his helmet, but the determination in his eyes had not faded. He had no intention of falling before the Xerox. Travis shouted and ran toward Jackran. "Oh my God, your arm! What are we going to do?" He looked at Jackran's bloody wound in panic and horror. Jackran, breathless, slowly straightened up. "We're going to keep going," he said calmly. "They're not strong enough to stop us." Travis nodded despite the fear in his eyes. You're really crazy, Jackran." "I'm just determined," Jackran said, gripping his laser pistol with his left hand again. "Humans grow through pain, Travis. War reminds us of who we are." The squad took cover and opened fire again on the enemy. Jackran fought with one arm, hitting every shot. The Xerox were astonished at this scene. How could a human so heavily injured still be fighting? Despite his bleeding wound, Jackran pressed forward. When they reached the massive door in front of the Xerox fortresses, he was already struggling to breathe. But he didn't stop. "Lock on to the target," he shouted. With his left hand, he fired the laser pistol, neutralizing the last few enemies. Then he placed the final explosive to blow open the door to seize the strategic target. The explosion shattered the metal door, allowing them to enter. Jackran fell to the ground, his vision blurred, but his smile never faded. Travis knelt beside him, trying to lift him up. "Don't close your eyes, Jackran," Jackran murmured as he gasped for breath. "We're not done yet." The Xerox defense line had collapsed. Jackran and his team had fought an extraordinary battle. Covered in blood, their bodies riddled with wounds, victory belonged to them. They had shattered the strongest defense line of the enemy. When the war ended, the battlefield resembled a graveyard. The colossal walls of the Xerox fortresses lay in ruins, with smoke rising into the sky. Energy explosions left a faint scent of ozone lingering in the air. Humans, alongside the Galactic Alliance, had won this battle, but the cost of victory was steep. Jackran and his team had suffered numerous losses. Yet, humans had fought until the last moment and emerged victorious. Jackran, despite collapsing to the ground, still believed the battle wasn't over. Travis was trying to lift him by the arm. "Don't give up. Just a little longer. The war is over," he said, breathless. "No," Jackran replied, his cracked lips forming a hoarse but resolute tone. "This is just the beginning." At that moment, the shadow of a massive Xerox ship loomed in the sky. It was clear that the enemy was preparing for one last counterattack. That gigantic vessel was a death machine capable of obliterating all hope. "What is that?" Travis asked, his eyes wide with fear as he looked up. Gigantic Xerox soldiers descended from the ship, looking invulnerable in their metallic armor. As each one landed on the battlefield, the ground trembled and cracked beneath them. With energy spears in hand, their eyes glowed with lethal intent. Despite their exhaustion, the humans did not retreat. Jackran rose to his feet again, missing an arm. He looked around at his fallen comrades. His breathing was irregular, but his will remained strong. "This is our final test," he told himself. Travis and the other soldiers aimed their weapons with renewed strength. The Xerox giants were approaching. The moment of first contact was overwhelming. One of the Xerox giants swung its massive spear down, knocking several human soldiers to the ground. As Travis bent down to help one of the fallen, a shadow appeared right behind him. "Travis!" Jackran shouted, but it was too late. The spear pierced Travis's shoulder. In that instant, everything froze. Travis let out a scream filled with agony and collapsed to the ground. Jackran's eyes filled with pain and fury as he witnessed his friend's death. As tears streamed down his face, he realized once more that this war was not a victory but a fight for survival. As the Xerok giant lunged at Jackran, he gripped his laser weapon with his left hand. "Even if there's no place for me in this world, I won't leave this planet to you," he shouted, firing back. The energy blasts from his weapon pierced the Xerok's armor, causing the colossal creature to let out a metallic scream before crashing to the ground. However, this victory would be short-lived. Another Xerok giant swung its spear toward Jackran. He removed his helmet and attempted a weak defense with his left hand. Just as the spear was about to strike him, the Alliance's other ships appeared in the sky. A series of massive laser orbs began raining down upon the Xerok giants like a deadly storm. The Xerok army was caught off guard by this sudden and fierce attack and began to retreat. Galactic Alliance forces, descending from the ships, joined the humans to deliver a final blow to the enemy. Laser orbs struck the enemy giants one after another, while the soldiers on the ground cleared away the remnants of the foe. Jackran's vision started to blur. His body could no longer endure the pain. Yet, when he saw the enemy ship retreating, he smiled with a sense of victory. "We won," he whispered, exhaustion evident in his voice. When Commander Hiver descended onto the battlefield, he slowly advanced through the rising smoke to witness humanity's victory with his own eyes. His gaze scanned the wounded soldiers until it landed on Jackran. With his right arm severed and his face covered in blood, Jackran stood as if miraculously still alive. However, his injured body could endure no more, and he collapsed. Hiver approached Jackran, his astonishment and admiration evident in his eyes. How are you still fighting?" he asked, genuine shock in his voice. He was one of the toughest warriors of the Galactic Alliance, but had never seen a will like Jackran's. With a final effort, Jackran opened his eyes. He was struggling to breathe, but didn't hesitate to smile. "We are human," he said, his voice hoarse but proud. "Pain is merely an obstacle for us. I lost my arm, my friends died, but we are still here. We won the war because we refused to give up." Hiver had always looked down on humans, seeing them as a weak and fragile species. But now, as he gazed into the eyes of a soldier like Jackran, he understood the true strength of humanity. They were not just warriors. They were a species that fought against all odds, rising after every blow, and seeking victory even in the most desperate moments. The Alliance forces had finally repelled the Xerok invasion. But behind this victory lay the determination and courage of human soldiers like Jackran and his team. The other members of the Galactic Alliance recognized this battle as a turning point. Humans were no longer just soldiers. They were now among the most crucial factors in winning the war. Jackran knew there was a price for victory. He had lost his arm and his friends, but humanity was always ready to pay that price. They would be remembered among the Alliance members as a legend. They were not just fighters. They were the most resilient beings in the galaxy. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.